ตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะข้าพเจ้าขอนอบน้อมต่อองค์สมเด็จพระสัมมาสัมพุทธเจ้าก่อนที่จะเข้าเรื่องนะคะขอพูดนอกเรื่องนิดนึงเวลาที่จะดับเทียนน่ะเราต้องมีสติเวลาดับเทียนแล้วเนี่ยหันกลับไปดูอีกครั้งหนึ่งว่าไส้เทียนน่ะมันยังมีควันอยู่หรือเปล่าถ้าไส้เทียนยังมีควันอยู่แปลว่ามันยังดับไม่สนิทและถ้าเราปล่อยเอาไว้มันจะกินไส้เทียนลงไปทำให้การจุดครั้งต่อมาไส้เทียนมันจะมอดลงมานะคะแม้กระทั่งการดับเทียนก็ต้องมีสติที่จะกลับไปเช็คดูว่าถ้ายังมีควันอยู่แสดงว่าที่ใดมีควันแสดงว่าที่นั้นยังมีไฟกลับไปกดอีกทีนึงกดให้ไส้เทียนจมในน้ำตาเทียนให้แน่ว่าเมื่อเขาเงยขึ้นมาแล้วเขาไม่มีควัน just teaching them when you actually put off the candle don't go so quickly take a look at it again whether there is still a smoke if there is a smoke there is fire it means the wick of the candle is not extinguished completely so we have to really press the wick into the teardrop the candle teardrop so that to make sure that it is properly extinguished just a little mindfulness in the practice today I don't know what topic I should talk to you about because there are so many interesting topics waiting in line but I have Pan is a Cambodian lady she's living in Switzerland so she speaks both Cambodian as well as English and she is interested in ordination so I told her unless you are serious don't waste my time I was so direct to tell her that she comes with her relative who speaks Cambodian and Thai no that is the difficult part she speaks Cambodian and English but the person who is supposed to be helping her with translation speaks Cambodian and Thai so I think I speak to Pan in English now interesting Pan is a Cambodian name it means กาน้ำชาภาษาไทยบอกกาน้ำชาแต่คนธรรมดาน่ะใช้กาน้ำชาแต่ถ้ากาน้ำชานั้นเป็นกาน้ำชาของพระเรียกว่าป้านเข้าใจหรือยังป้านน้ำชาจะใช้อันนั้นกับพระเรามาเรียนรู้จากเขมรว่าเขมรเขาเรียกอันนั้นน่ะสำหรับพระนะว่าป้านน้ำชา so we're talking about this teapot her name is teapot Pan means teapot but the kind of teapot that the monks use or the monastics use so as I was telling you earlier that in Thai language we don't have caste system but we have class we have set of language for the royal family we have another set of language used for monastics and we have a set of language for commoners so therefore Pan is the language we use for the monastics means the teapot ordinary teapot is ka nam cha but if that teapot is for the monks then it's Pan her name our Cambodian friend who is here with us she is interested in monastic life but it is understood that why in Cambodia at the present stage do not have much understanding about Buddhism, about Buddhist teaching. Because we recall in this very recent history that in 1975, Cambodia almost lost their country. Literally almost lost their country. For 5 years they were in this limbo, swinging back and forth whether there's going to be a nation to continue on or whether they're going to be completely wiped out from the map of the world, the border between Cambodia and Thailand. Humanistically has to be open because flux of humans from Cambodia were flooding. They were fleeing for freedom, for life really, for life. So they entered Thailand through that part of the borderline, Khao Idang, we remember Khao Idang. That was the place where we have refugee camps. And literally, each day, I was there as volunteers, so I could tell you with direct witness. Each day, bodies of Cambodians coming in to the camp, most of them were dead. And there were bodies lying there waiting to be cremated. I was at that moment when the Cambodians literally was broken. So they went through difficult time for 5 years before they could actually revive again in 1979. King Sihanouk, the previous king, the present king is King Sihamuni. Sihamuni's father, King Sihanouk, thought it was very important to revive Buddhism. And one of the ways to revive Buddhism was to send out the still living Cambodian men for ordination. So the first batch that was recruited for ordination included the present Somdet Thep Wong, the present Somdet of Mahanikaya, was one among the first batch that the King Sihanouk sent these Cambodian men for ordination from Vietnam. So that was how they actually re-established the Buddhist Sangha in Cambodia. Of course, Buddhist education was next to zero. It is understandable. And as I visited, during that time I worked very closely with the Donchees. I have to tell you this piece of history because it's not going to be written by anyone to actually record the history of the Cambodians. The person who actually revived Buddhism were not monks, but they were Donchees. Many of the uposatha, the hall, the main hall, the shrine, were actually the place where they actually had this killing field. People were lined up and they shot them to death. In the vihara, in the uposatha, in the main shrine, you could see blood mark on the wall. The temples were all deserted. And people who returned to the temples were the Donchees, were the women. It has to be reminded. We have to underline this. The revival of Buddhism in Cambodia after 1979 were started by women. These women, they got together, they lost their husbands, they lost their sons, they lost their grandparents. Each one of them had a story of lost. They came together to pray, to heal themselves for the lost souls of their relatives. It is the women, it is the Cambodian women, Cambodian Donchees who return to the temples to clean up, to wash the wall full of blood mark. They gathered to do the chanting. Whatever they remembered, the little verses they remembered here and there are, this grandma, she can remember this one, so this grandma start the chanting. Like that. That was how they started. After some time, the monks emerged. Returned to the temples. These temples were already cleaned by the women. The temples were already cleaned by the Donchees. When the monks returned, หลวงพี่อย่าหลับนะหลวงแม่กำลังเล่าถึงประวัติศาสตร์ที่มันเป็นความเจ็บปวดของเขมรและความเจ็บปวดอย่างนี้มันสามารถจะเป็นความเจ็บปวดของคนไทยด้วยเพราะฉะนั้นคนไทยอย่าหลับเพราะเดี๋ยวจะแปลให้ฟัง The monks did not know anything. The young monks, the one who were just recently ordained, remember ordination of monks started only after 1979. The monks did not know anything much. The Donchees know much better because they remain intact in their spiritual life. After the monks, then came the Ajahs. The Ajahs were the monks, but already left the monkhood during the war. They returned to lay life, but they have the knowledge. These Ajahs, they have the knowledge of Buddhism because they were monks before. So they were wearing white shirt and black silk trouser เป็นเหมือนกางเกงชาวเลแต่มันๆนะเป็นผ้ามันๆ and these Ajahs, so the Donchees told me, when they return to the temple, they cook for themselves among the women. Now the monks return, so the Donchees have to cook for themselves, and of course they have to cook to feed the monks. And now the Ajahs came, so the Donchees have to cook for themselves, cook for the monks, and also for the Ajahs. You see the hierarchical structure again returned to the temple, in spite of the fact that women were the first one to actually revive, return, gain the space back in the temple. We should not lose this history. But the Donchees, very few of them are literate enough to write. I went yet to see another group of Donchees in Battambang. Many of the people from Battambang actually were Thai children, like their grandfather were Thais, and after the war they returned to Thailand, but nevertheless they left their sons, their daughters back in Battambang. I went back there to give a training for the Donchees. We prepared the material very well. We had 40 members, to come to the training, to realize that our materials could not be used with them, because out of these 40, only 2 of them could read and write. So imagine the situation of the Donchees in Cambodia in the early 1980s, 1990s. It was 1999. I was still a lay person. I went to meet the Somdet Burkri. Somdet was a Somdet of Thamayut, not Mahanikai. Yes, Somdet Tepwong, the one I mentioned earlier, the one who was ordained in 1979. He is a Somdet of Mahanikai. But Somdet Burkri is a Somdet of Thamayut. And during the difficult time during 1975 to 1979, he was in France. Together with the present king, they were in France, and they were like teachers and disciples. Their relationship was like that. Somdet Burkri, when I went to see him in 1999, and I told him of my interest. At that time, I was not ordained yet. Remember, I was ordained in 2001. That year was 1999, and I told him about my interest for the ordination of the Bhikkhunis. He said that if the Donchees were interested in becoming Bhikkhunis, he would actually build a temple for them. This was Somdet Burkri who talked to me in 1999. But later on, when I was ordained, I went back again to Cambodia. I have a long relationship with Cambodians, so I keep going back. During that period of time, I kept going back to Cambodia. But this time, Somdet Burkri did not mention anything about ordination for Bhikkhunis. Nevertheless, I still organize the training for the Cambodians, Donchees. I organize the training here. But again, the Donchees, they don't speak English, so that's why Pan's the responsibility is very strong. We need a translator, we need interpreter. So for 2 years, 2 vasas during the rain, we invited the Donchees, 5 of them. But for the 5 Donchees, we have to hire 1 interpreter. We paid for them to come, and then we paid the interpreter to translate for them. In 1 year, the Queen Monique, thank you for looking for her name for me. The Queen Monique, the present king's mother, she sponsored the Donchees. She sponsored 5 Donchees, giving them 3,000 each to come and have training with us. During those 2 years, they were very,